All right, just a quick review before your quiz. So you might want to look over your notes from, was it Friday, when we learned about degree and leading coefficient and standard form. But a majority of the quiz is adding, subtracting, and multiplying. The trick is that they're all kind of mixed together, so you want to pay a lot of attention to if there's a symbol that says add or subtract, or if you don't see the symbol, then you know it's going to be multiplication. So you want to just really watch for that so that you're not doing a FOIL on one of these first things or distributing on an addition problem. So if you do see an addition problem, reminder that addition just means combining like terms, right? We add like terms. So just look for anything that is a like term. 3x cubed plus 1x cubed is 4x cubed. Here I've got a 2x squared minus a 1x squared, which would be an x squared. It looks like the 5 and the 5x are not like terms, so those will just have to be separate from each other. I'll have the 5x, and I'll have the just constant of 5 all by itself. And you'll notice that I wrote that in standard form as I went. I started with the highest exponent going down to the lowest exponent, and then it's all set up as my answer. For the subtraction ones, I think what I would do is just go ahead and distribute that negative sign right away, so then you don't have to worry about it. So instead of subtracting, I would just add the opposite, right? So just change it into an addition problem, but everything is going to be opposite of what it was. So now I'm going to take that 3x cubed, and it's a negative x cubed, and this time it's a 2x cubed. Now I've got my 2x squared, and a positive x squared makes a 3x squared. For my x term, now it's a negative 5x. And that 5 was still positive, so I'll still have a plus 5 at the end. That's how I would handle the addition and subtraction ones. If you want to do the horizontal or the vertical method, you can, but for combining like terms, if you can keep track of them on your own, that's fine too. Then we move on to the multiplying type. Remember, if it's a binomial times a binomial, you can go ahead and just use that FOIL method. You also could use the box method if you like that better, but I really would like you to try the FOIL method if you can get the hang of that. So FOIL is where we take the first two terms times each other. 4x squared times another x would make 4x cubed. Outside two terms, 4x squared times negative 3 would be negative 12x squared. Inside two terms would be plus 2x, and the last two terms would be minus 6. And then remember that sometimes when we're doing FOIL, the outside inside will combine. It looks like this time our outside inside don't combine. Are any of those like terms? I don't think so, so we might actually just be done right there. Just always want to check on those multiplication ones to see if there's any like terms that can be combined. This next multiplication problem is a little more complicated because we have a binomial times a trinomial. If we have two things times three things, we should expect 6 terms in the end. Then some of them will probably combine. So how do you want to handle this? So one way is we could take the x plus 2 times each of those, if you like to do it that way. Another way is you could take the x times each of those, and then the 2 times each of those. Either way, you should get all 6 pairs. Just depends on how you're used to doing that. Either way. I'm used to doing it, taking the x times all 3 of these, so I'm going to do it that way. If I took the x times all 3 of those, the first part would be x cubed 9x squared minus 2x, taking an x times each of those. And then if I took a plus 2 times each of those, I would get a 2x squared an 18x, and a -4. Either way you do it though, you should get 6 terms once you're done. And then if you can combine any of those, that would be great. And I think I can combine some x squareds. And that's looking like a good answer there. All right. The last thing I wanted to talk about is something that's going to be on your worksheet when you're done. And you might see a little bit of this on your quiz, only because it's not really anything new. It's something that you've seen before. This is a binomial times a binomial. It's just a special type of binomial. They call them conjugates. 5x plus 4 and 5x minus 4. Something kind of cool happens when you FOIL these. When you take the 5x times the 5x for your first, when you FOIL, you get 25x squared. And then your outside winds up being minus 20x. And your inside winds up being plus 20x. And your last winds up being minus 16. And the kind of cool thing is if you have this sort of setup, what do you notice about the outside inside? They literally make 0x, right? So if you were to get the hang of this type of special product, the answer always comes out as just the F and the L part of FOIL. So if you were on top of your game and you could notice that that was going to be one of those special products, some people are able just to skip the O and the I in FOIL and skip just to the answer. I don't know. If you can catch on to that, then that would save you a little bit of time. And then this last one, a lot of people get confused about this and they think that you're allowed to distribute the square. That is an absolute no-no, and it's probably the biggest mistake in algebra, and I'm not going to let you do it. What you have to do, we know that squaring means multiplying by itself. We are required to write out 2 of those. And if we're required to write out 2 of those, that means this is another FOIL problem. Make sure you watch for that if it shows up on your quiz. If you're squaring something, it means multiplying by itself. FOILing. Outside. Sorry, that was first. Outside. Inside. And last. And then I guess what's special about this is, what do you notice about your outside and your inside? They're samesies. And if you catch on to that pattern, it's all about pattern recognition, then you'll notice that this is always double of an outside inside, right? And so this one's maybe a little harder to recognize, but some people are able just to get their OI all at the same time without having to FOIL these. That's maybe more of a stretch, but if you're able to recognize that pattern straight off, this one for me is a little bit easier, but if you're able to get straight from there to there, it actually saves you a little bit of showing your work. So on your worksheet after the quiz, you're going to be practicing some of those special products just to see if you can get the hang of that special pattern that happens when you FOIL.